serie, los hitos de travesías que antes parecían imposibles, cruce del océano, récords de altura, velocidad, etc., comenzaron a hacer del vuelo un lugar más popular y con más adeptos. Los avances generados por los conflictos armados, la investigación y la necesidad de llegar a más lugares en menos tiempo forzaron a la aviación a crecer a tal punto que en la historia de la humanidad no se registra un antecedente que demuestre que en solo 100 años el hombre pasó de trasladarse de un lugar a otro con tanta eficacia, velocidad y confort, tomando en cuenta que el hombre camina y navega desde la primera hoja de la historia. Es sorprendente que la humanidad vuele hace poco más de 110 años. La marcada revolución provocada desde el primer vuelo comercial a reacción del de Havilland Comet el 27 de julio de 1949, transportando pasajeros a más de 700 kilómetros por hora, cuando el avión volaba a 12.200 metros. Este valor sería el doble de cualquier aparato comercial anterior, y es la prueba de que esta industria no iba a detener su avance fácilmente. Si tenemos en cuenta que esta revolución afectaría benévolamente a pasajeros, empresarios, gobiernos, industria, etc., también por cuestiones físicas lo haría inversamente, asumiendo más riesgos, más aprendizaje y mucho camino por recorrer. Si entendemos que la revolución de estos últimos 60 años ha incorporado al mundo contemporáneo todos estos avances, también vamos a entender que su estudio y preparación no fueron diseñados y puestos en práctica por personas osadas solamente, como Wilbur y Orville Wright, Jorge Newbery o Howard Hughes, por mencionar solo algunos. Por el contrario, tendremos que dimensionar que la industria a ese momento incorporó el método, la experiencia, el conocimiento, la planificación, la ejecución del plan y la puesta en práctica. Es necesario ver en retrospectiva y entender en qué momento de la historia estamos hoy para poder comprender que se han logrado objetivos que hasta hace unos pocos años eran prácticamente imposibles de imaginar. Un ejemplo claro es el hecho que hoy en día cualquier persona puede estar del otro lado del mundo en pocas horas, suceso que antes podría llevar meses por agua o tierra. Toda esta metodología implica estudio y preparación para continuar con lo logrado en materia de adelantos, y para esto la formación de profesionales debe ser considerada como un punto clave y fundamental a la hora de seguir obteniendo resultados. Estos resultados han crecido exponencialmente en la industria aeronáutica. Si estamos de acuerdo hasta acá, será necesario detenerse un momento y pensar que la industria ha avanzado planificando y obteniendo logros a pasos agigantados. La pregunta será si todos los profesionales han sido alcanzados por estos avances, académicamente hablando. Esta pregunta se nos ha presentado como educadores cuando conversamos con pilotos que han sufrido los cambios ocurridos entre la década del 60 y del 70, periodo en el cual se pasó de volar aviones a pistón a volar aviones a reacción, o como lo sucedido entre los años 80 y 90, cuando la tecnología introducida por Airbus realizó un cambio de paradigma dentro de la cabina, cockpit. Estas experiencias de las que la aviación se ha nutrido para avanzar y lograr los más altos estándares de seguridad y calidad han trascendido teniendo en cuenta que los errores deben ser corregidos para que no vuelvan a ocurrir, y para ello se han invertido millones de horas y mucho sacrificio de infinidad de personas. Sin embargo, estas mismas experiencias han dejado evidencia de que la gran mayoría de los que poseen licencias aeronáuticas, sean estos pilotos, despachantes, mecánicos, tripulantes de cabina de pasajeros, ingenieros y o profesionales de otras áreas y disciplinas sin licencia aeronáutica, no reciben una adecuada instrucción en el área. La siguiente es una solución sistémica para que la educación aeronáutica sea una misma y esté a la altura de las exigencias de la industria a nivel mundial. Planteo de la necesidad, el cómo. Dentro de la industria aeronáutica partimos de la necesidad de proveer una formación académica para todas las licencias aeronáuticas y una formación aeronáutica para todos aquellos profesionales que se suman a esta industria desde otras áreas no aeronáuticas. El problema que inspira esta necesidad. El principal obstáculo a vencer es la notable degradación observada en la preparación teórica y práctica de los futuros profesionales de la industria aeronáutica, pilotos y tripulantes de cabina de pasajeros, entre otros, a nivel mundial. Este problema es generado por la voracidad de los medios económicos que presionan directa e indirectamente a las instituciones públicas y privadas para alcanzar los estándares mínimos de preparación en el menor tiempo posible. Esta degradación es impulsada hasta el día de hoy por los métodos abreviados, perfeccionados a tal punto que años de formación se han llegado a concentrar en compendios de preguntas y respuestas donde los alumnos, con una porción de lógica, alcanzan supuestos estándares que poco tienen que ver con la maduración y el proceso de aprendizaje que otras profesiones tienen históricamente probadas desde la educación formal. Mientras tanto, el avance de la ingeniería de la mano de la tecnología ha salvado infinidad de vidas, gracias a que las aeronaves fueron pensadas y fabricadas con grandes márgenes de seguridad para el común de los humanos. Es que no lamentamos pérdidas aún mayores. De lo contrario, si estas aeronaves se hubiesen pensado solo para avanzar sobre los márgenes únicamente, hubiésemos perdido muchas más vidas. Sin embargo, las estadísticas de accidentes relacionados con la instrucción que podrían haberse evitado siguen alarmando. Muchas veces, lo sucedido se produce por la subestimación de la situación o bien por la falta de conocimiento del instructor. Solo con ingresar a la página de la Junta de Investigación de Accidentes de Aviación Civil podríamos observar el registro de accidentes tipo. Solo entre el 2005 y el 2014, en la República Argentina se entregaron aproximadamente 12.000 licencias de piloto y se matricularon aproximadamente 1.500 aeronaves. Cruzando estos datos con los accidentes de la aviación general, tendríamos un accidente de aviación a la semana. Esta estadística se convierte en un dato oscuro de la realidad si tomamos en cuenta que en la aviación general se desarrolla la mayor cantidad de actividades educativas, entrenamiento y perfeccionamiento de las que participan la gran mayoría de alumnos e instructores. La única solución posible es incorporar a nuestra industria una educación integral e involucrar a todos los componentes de la operación aérea, operativos con los no operativos, para que la operación aérea sea exitosa. Con esta capacitación, todo aquel que esté interesado en ingresar a la industria y todos los integrantes de la actividad aeronáutica, mecánicos, operadores de torre, administrativos, directores, empresarios, médicos y toda función que esté relacionada directa o indirectamente con el vuelo, pasando por el más simple data entry de un call center de una aerolínea, todos en su medida e importancia recibirán educación aeronáutica, con programas adaptativos a la función o rama de la industria. Desde que la aviación se convirtió en un medio de transporte público a nivel mundial que se discute sobre la instrucción en la aviación y que a la vista de los acontecimientos es el momento de darle educación formal a nuestra aviación civil. Y para lograrlo, como ejemplo, haremos el mismo efecto que se logra cuando es ecualizada la música en un equipo de sonido. Por un lado, colocando a los profesionales operativos a la altura de los que han sido formados desde la educación tradicional con valores y conocimientos. Por otro canal, a los que no poseen conocimientos aeronáuticos, que hoy trabajan o que trabajarán en un futuro próximo para que entiendan la complejidad de una operación aérea con conocimientos aeronáuticos. Esta formación es necesaria para lograr hablar un mismo idioma entre un operativo, piloto, tripulante de cabina, meteorólogo, operador de aeronaves, jefe de aeródromo, despachante de aeronaves, señalero, etc., educándolos con conocimientos generales sobre ética, valores, técnica social, leyes, comercialización, administración y humanística. Esta formación está creada también para articularla con un no operativo, como por ejemplo un administrador de carrera o un personal vinculado con la administración, que tiene, entre otras responsabilidades, la tarea de administrar recursos a nivel nacional y a la vez puede entender sobre cuestiones relacionadas al vuelo y a la necesidad de la administración del riesgo. O a un abogado, que según la circunstancia puede estar de un lado o del otro del conflicto, y a pesar de ello pueda mantener su postura conociendo la realidad de un operativo con un background aeronáutico, donde a la hora de citar un tratado o de analizar un accidente puede interpretar el juicio de valores con conocimiento adquirido con formación aeronáutica. Hoy No podemos desconocer que una empresa u organismo, de acuerdo a la dimensión que tenga, tiene en su plantel una población de estos profesionales que en algunos casos superarán la cantidad de operativos, generando en sí un conflicto por la escala y poca o nula preparación aeronáutica que reciben antes o durante sus funciones. Decimos abogados, contadores, psicólogos, médicos, entre otros, que reciben educación formal académica, como por ejemplo el ingeniero aeronáutico recibe una educación de una carrera de grado de 5 años, lo que suman aproximadamente 4.000 horas cátedra. Un piloto, en cambio, puede recibir entre su curso de piloto privado y comercial desde la teoría alrededor de 700 horas cátedra y un mínimo de 250 horas de vuelo, práctica, mientras que un instructor podría sumarle algunas horas más de las asignaturas de práctica de la enseñanza y metodología que no llegan entre ambas a sumar 60 horas cátedra. Un jefe de aeródromo, un operador de torre, un señalero, recibirá un curso de prácticamente la misma carga horaria que un piloto, al igual que un despachante de aeronaves. Un customer service o personal counter de aerolínea recibe poco o casi nula educación previa. Esta capacitación pone en valor a todos los perfiles y para que, una vez finalizada la capacitación, el profesional o futuro profesional esté a la altura de las circunstancias, con lo que ello significa desde el punto de vista de la responsabilidad penal, civil y comercial. Como modelo, algunas aerolíneas de Emirates Airlines se han reservado una academia particular, college, en donde todos sus empleados son instruidos, sea cual sea su rol, a cumplir en la compañía. Estos lugares capacitan al personal no solo para introducirlos a las políticas de la empresa y puesto específico, sino además para insertarlos al mundo operativo que los rodea, con resultados marcados por la excelencia. Los resultados han logrado que cualquier puesto de la compañía conozca la operación aeronáutica en la medida del compromiso y magnitud del puesto asignado, sumado a un conocimiento de la realidad de las finanzas y la importancia del recurso humano. Si llegamos hasta aquí, este ejemplo es el que denominamos como de ecualización de roles. Ahora les pedimos que entiendan que estas empresas vienen realizando dicha capacitación durante los últimos 15 años y en casos como esta, involucrando a más de 150 nacionalidades diferentes, alcanzando un nivel de excelencia inédito en la historia de la aviación comercial.
My name is Agustina Tiberi. Today I will be presenting the first team of the National Technological University of Argentina, Regional Mar del Plata. We appreciate the participation of Emirates Aviation University students, especially in the teams led by the Research Director of the Emirates Aviation University, Sindonga Mutabarike and Omar Chafik. They have made available time and resources to make the NTFA possible. So that the audience knows the fundamentals of NTFA, we want to tell you that it has been created so that our future graduates and professionals who work in the aviation field today can work together on industry issues. Aviation, as we know it today from the Chicago Convention of 1944, is pronounced in its 19 annexes as a single activity involving all member countries. Beyond the problems of countries, resources, and policies, aviation became a globalized industry, long before the world began to talk about globalization. But until now, in many parts of the world, when companies in the aeronautical sector need to incorporate new collaborators, about 95% of the personnel interviewed do not have prior aeronautical knowledge or formal education. This situation generates a real financing problem. Once hired, they will have to instruct them in a very short period of time. To this matter, we must add a direct problem of cost and losses, since after the trial period, company must discard a high percentage of personnel for not being able to adapt to the current requirements in the field. These two institutions that today make up the NTFA understood the problem and have developed programs that value training and education, thus establishing a dialogue with your future employer using the same language. The University of Aeronautical Education establishes a direct link between the graduate's needs for job placement with the job opportunities that the industry and the employer can provide. The NTFA kicked off with 2 brilliant presentations led by professionals from Emirates Aviation University. The National Technological University, UTN, in these next 3 presentations, will address the following subjects: fuel efficiency, pandemic impact, and personal influences on the aviation operations. These topics are addressed by UTN graduates and teachers who have worked as a team to achieve the proposed objectives. The graduates had worked under the teachers' supervision. Today, we will talk about fuel efficiency. The main objectives are, first, to show the aeronautical community that the search for solutions to our problems can be addressed directly from the university formation. Second, that distances are not an obstacle for the interpretation and resolution of problems common to the industry. That aviation will continue to be a cultural link without borders. It is our wish as UTN graduates that in the next NTFA to work together with our colleagues from the Emirates Aviation University on common problems. It is a pleasure for me to introduce the fuel efficiency team led by Professor Captain Roberto Erickson, co-director and Aero Commercial and Air Transport Department of the UTN Regional Mar del Plata, and Captain and Flight Instructor Gabriel Gaeta, a student of the Diplomacy in Administration and Aero Commercial Management. The presentation will be translated into Argentine Sign Language and the International Sign System by Leonardo Bandone. We encourage you to leave your webcam on. This way, we can get to know each other a little more. Fuel efficiency team, you can now start your presentation. Good luck.
Hello to everyone. Hello, how can you see? Yes, I'm moving on the camera. Hello to everyone. Welcome on board to this presentation. Let me share my screen and start working here. Preset. My name is Agustina. So my name is Roberto Erickson. I'm one of the teachers on the UTN and part of the team that is going to share this conversation, this series of conversation that we have already begun a few months ago after the Miss Crystal and Miss Salah, who has addressed some of the big issues that we have is with this safety and talk about management of the aviation industry. And now what we are going to share with you, we'll be talking and having a conversation about fuel efficiency and how can we address this. I don't like to treat this as a problem. This is something that we have to manage. It's not necessarily a problem. It's something that we have to work on and we have to keep in mind. So together, Mr. Captain Gabriel Gaeta, who is one of our students, will be sharing a part. We will be talking like 20 minutes about the general context of the fuel efficiency, or what we have to take care of, what we have to keep in mind. And then Mr. Gabriel will be sharing with you the hands-on on the problem and how we address this fuel efficiency topic in the industry. I want to thank Mr. Sinuga and Mr. Chaif for all the effort they are making for having this program, keep this program going. Thanks to the students for connecting and sharing. Please feel free if you have to write some questions. We will have a Q&A session at the end, but if you feel that it's very important to interrupt and to ask something, this is not a strict lecture. You can open your microphone and ask. Consider we are in between friends, and let's talk about what you have to say. So, being that said, let's move on the presentation. As in everything that we have to manage, we always try to find a balance, and this conjunct theory, yes, we are used to talk about the conjunct theory that we saw in the primary school. We say, okay, the intersection of conjuncts give you a common space in between left conjunction, right conjunction, and there is in between these three forces that always lead what we do, or we keep in mind that there is a common ground in between the economics or the revenue, the society, and the environment. We know there is a common ground in between these three forces. Do you guess what is the name of this common ground? What do you think what we found there in the intersection of these three? What is in the balance? If you have to say, okay, here, I guess here we can have. What is there any? Can you put a name to this part of the equation? Let me work for you. It's called sustainability. Sustainability is what is in between, or the conjunction of a good economic or a business that has a good revenue or something that we need to do. What it brings to society, what we get as a society, what we get of that activity, and how it works, how it interacts with the environment. We find the sustainability, and I choose to put the sustainability in a post-it. Yes, you know the post-it, the 3M post-it is the paper with the stick at the back that we pay in the refrigerator, whether we put in our computer just to remember something. Well, I put it on the post-it and I highlight it. Here, I can speak again. I highlight it and I underline it because it's a very, very important thing that we have to, from now on, and from a period to now and from now on, we have to keep in mind, because this is a game changer. This is something that we will have to keep always in mind as something that is introduced in everything that we do. And sustainability is one of those things that it's not a fancy thing. It's not something that, okay, now everybody's talking about this and let's do this because it's good with we are okay with the community. No, it's something that as a part of this world, as the part that we are sharing this environment, as a part of this industry, what we are doing, we have to keep in mind this balance and this new rule on this balance, which is the sustainability. And everything that we do from now on, we have to put the sustainability inside. If you are working for a subject on your lectures, or if you are going to the university and you are asked to do something, put the sustainability in the equation. Start thinking, and how does it interact with sustainability? Are we being sustainable by doing what we are doing? Because it's what we will have to do. Yes, could be a huge challenge. The industry is saying this as a huge challenge, but we are used to challenge. We have been on the moon. We weren't able, 100-something years ago, we weren't able to take off. Now we travel from continent to continent in a few hours. We have increased the safety margin in a exponential ways. So this is only a new challenge. It's not something that it's impossible. It's something that we have to work. You are the task force that if we are talking in this room, and if you anywhere you are on the industry, or if you are becoming part of the industry as a professional, we will have to take this challenge and we will have to solve this problem of sustainability, because wherever you take part of this cake, you will be working with this sustainability. Could be hard, could be seen as a very big hill, but don't worry, we are here to work on this, and we will solve it together. We will. Let's go specifically to see this distribution and how we contribute on this CO2 footprint. You will find many definitions, and this distribution of contribution of how much we impact the CO2 emission, the global emission. There are a lot of literature you will find, and it could be that you may find from 5% the contribution of the aviation industry, from 5 to 17. It depends on which part of the sector they are considering? Are they considering a region? Are they considering just a commercial aviation, any type of airplanes? Or so it depends what they are looking, which are the metrics they are using. So, but we contribute on this CO2 emission. Maybe we are not the biggest contribution, we as the aviation industry, when I say we, as the part, but we are part of this challenge, we are part of this program, and we have to address it, we have to work on it. So, with that in mind, we'll say, okay, what is going on with aviation, with the CO2 emission, or with the impact that we are generating on this global warming? Or let's talk about the CO2 emission specifically, to have something to work on, or to keep something in mind, because yes, you may say global warming. Yes, there are many things, there are many variables that that are in conjunction to generate the global warming, but let's keep focus on the CO2 emission, and after that we will say, you were to talk about fuel efficiency. Why are we talking about CO2 emission? They are closely linked, and we will see why. There's a program. There's and if you remember, in 2015, the United Nations, the countries that get together in the United Nations, generate or adopted a plan, these sustainable development goals, to address several issues, several problems, or several things that we need to consider to go on in the present and to go in the future. And reading from the United Nations website, these are the 2013 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all the United Nations member states in 2015, provide a shared blueprints for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. At the heart of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are urgent call for action by all the countries, is what the United Nations, and all the countries that get together in the United Nations, what they think we have to work on to continue in a sustainable and prosper future. This is, we talk about the United Nations. Now, if we go to the ICAO, which is the Civil Aviation Authority, they developed this CORSIA. This is the Carbon Offsetting and Reduction Scheme for International Aviation, which is a plan that takes 14 of these 17 topics. They say, okay, we can work, we can collaborate as an aviation industry, we can collaborate with this bigger plan of 17, we can collaborate and we can generate a movement to go towards having a sustainable aviation. Yes, if you go, I encourage you to go to the CORSIA website in ICAO, where you may find very, very clear information, a lot of information, and what are the countries doing, which are the different in between countries, which are the things that any country with its legislation, with the degree of development that this country have, what they can do, of what they are doing, which are the technology they are implementing, what they are doing in terms of offsetting this carbon footprint. That's it. If you say, okay, I have to do something, what do we have? Where do I begin? Where I can start? Go to CORSIA, and you will see many metrics, you will see many things, you will find providers, you will find regulation, you will find things that we can start doing as a part of the industry. So, with that in mind, in aviation we have a balance, as Mr. Hassan told us in the first lecture. In aviation industry, we generally acknowledge that we are in a balance in between three forces, between three things that we try to keep in balance. Dr. Crystal also talked about one of this, the part of this balance, these stones. Let me help you, which is the balance we try to keep in aviation. Of course, at the very bottom, we try to keep safe, try to keep aviation safe, because safety is always the top priority. Nobody wants to hurt anyone no one want to break something or to lose your capital by taking more risk than the one that we have to take. But we also need revenue because this is a business, and we try to keep the revenue. We need the revenue, we need the money. It have to be health, the revenue of the company, because that's what we do. We are in an industry, we generate revenue, and for that we administrate our productivity. Yes, in the balance between these three forces, we try to keep our business going, our business moving. So we manage our safety and our productivity, which interacts, and you will say, okay, do you think you take part of the safety to increase productivity? Yes, that's a balance we continuously monitor. How can we take this risk, address this risk to be more productive? Or how can we increase our productivity without taking part of the safety the safety indicators that we have? This is something that you will be doing all the time. Being part in any part of this industry, you will be working with this because we have to maximize our revenue, and we have to work with the safety margins, and we have to work with the productivity. This is the general view of the aviation industry. But there's a new balance. There's a new balance on the system. There's a new storm, and the new storm is sustainability. Sustainability is part of this equation, of this balance that we keep all the time working. We try to maximize our revenue. Now we have to introduce, we have a new variable, a complex, we have another variable in our equation. So the system is becoming, I don't know if more complex, but we have new rules. Yes, you say, okay, but sustainability is not a rule. Maybe it's not a rule now, but consider if you are investing in a mid or long term, that sustainability may become and will become a rule. So you think in a new system, okay, I'm introducing this new technology, but I don't mind about sustainability because it's not a rule. I don't have to do something that is not rule because it may impact my revenue because it's not as cheap as it's more work. I have a new team to work on sustain. No, don't worry. Okay, from 5 years from now, it will become a rule. So maybe your investment, the rules and the forces that balance your revenue will change, and you have already implemented your technology, so you will have to change it. So thinking in sustainability now is good for business. It's good for business. It's something that everybody is doing. And that's why I put it on a post-it, highlighted and underlined. Keep in mind, and on your next work, on the next thing you have to do to present to your teacher, for example, if you are on a university, please take a look on how sustainable this project is. Good. If you consider that, okay, just maybe it's the idea, Roberto's idea. Okay, look what the industry is doing, what they are thinking. Look, the latest Boeing conference where the SkyTeam and KLM, this is a proposal. What if we treat sustainability like we treat safety? Okay, let's confirm that we are in the correct way. Sustainability is not anymore a fancy thing. It's now a new force on this balance that we have to keep in this industry. And they all have also created a competition. Okay, let's compete in between each other. The SkyTeam airlines are competing now, and you can find in the Sustainable Flight Challenge, which is a website where they say, okay, let's compete each other. It's a good way to improve. Compete. If you only run against you, okay, I'm better than me. I'm better than I was yesterday, but how can I improve more? Okay, let's compete. And they are getting together, airlines, with some very well-defined metrics. Okay, what we are going to measure, what we are going to compete, which are the, okay, they define which are the metrics, how they are going to compete. They are competing each other in order to reduce their footprints. So it's not something that we are imagining or something that we wish. It's happening now. The industry is working in this direction. So we are part of this. We are part of the industry. We are part of this challenge, and the challenge is already going. So let's jump in. What's it all about? What is, let's connect this idea, this big paradigm of the environment. Let's connect with reality. Let's connect with our industry. What is the commitment they have made? There's a strong commitment by net zero carbon emission by 2050. You say we have to reduce the carbon emission to zero. Okay, we have but it's 2050. Don't worry, we will be part of the industry in 2050. I hope, but it's not so far. It's 25 and something years, and there's a big road that we have to walk to reach the next zero. What are the companies working on? They are working in different aspects. Technology. They are working in new technology, implement new technology that reduces the carbon footprint. They are working in procedures and traffic management, for example, and how can we connect all this huge network of routes, airlines, operators, and how can we make more efficient our flights, how our traffic management, how can we put more people in fewer airplanes and use airplanes that are more environmentally friendly. And this is one of the topics. We are using IT technology where we can monitor, we can, AI intelligence is trying to predict how can we make this universe or this universe of airplane sharing the airspace, how can we make this more efficient to emit less? If you think about CSAR, this European way of administrating the airspace, which was initially thought about that there's no more room for any airplane. So let's tie this up and say, okay, let's administrate. We have a very huge, powerful computer where you load everything inside. They tell you, okay, you take off now, you take off now. There's a 3D, 4D airspace in between the computer that manage all the traffic to being able to operate in a very busy environment. The other part of this cake that we will work on is the sustainable aviation fuel, and see how big is the portion of the sustainable aviation fuel. And there are many companies that are working now in creating, developing, and using the sustainable aviation fuel. There's a new industry, and companies are seeing this as a very profitable business. See, new technology, new fuels, and how are we going to feed all these airplanes, all these engines that need fuel, because the industry is forecast to grow. We are not flattening or decreasing the curve of aviation growing. The industry is growing and will continue growing. So the problem is dual problem. That's how we are going to tackle this challenge. How the industry is approaching to fly net zero, to contribute to this reduction in the CO2 footprint, how the industry is thinking, is looking forward to reduce. And as we say, this is not the only part of the problem. Okay, we have some things that we have to do outside of the airplane. Now let's get on board. And if you think about, okay, let's go to the plane now, we need to reduce the fuel consumption because, okay, it's good for business. And anyone on the aviation industry will say, okay, let's consume zero, please. the field manager say, okay, I want no consumption. Please glide to the airport. When you are in a distance that is good to glide to the airport, it say, okay, please shut down the engines and consume 0. Okay, it's not, we are not able to do as pilots, but the field manager always tell you, please turn off the engines. Because the fuel has 2 characteristics of the fuel that we use. There's a very big portion of the cost of a flight. Here it says, like, if you think about an airplane that has 100 planes, 100 seats, this is distribution and which are the impact of any part of the cost of traveling. Here it says 29. I may say that it depends on where you look, which airline, what kind of airplane they fly on. These could reach 45 also. So maybe the half of your cost, the direct operating cost, is the fuel. And at the right of the slide, you may see the jet fuel prices as they have been moving. Okay, if you are the manager, you say, okay, let's address this problem. Okay, let's assume that we are going to have a price of 55. Okay, it was 55. It reached 10, then it moved to 175. Okay, I challenge you to find a ticket price for this variation. There's a huge problem. If you have a huge variation in the fuel prices and the fuel prices impact your revenue, because consider that 30 or 40% of your airplane is for paying fuel, okay, you will have a big impact on your ticket prices, how you are going to pay for the flight, how you are going to find revenue. Consider that the profit is in between 1 or 2 seats. Yes, it depends, always it depends. But the margin in this industry, the capitals are very big and the margins are very small. So that's the second thing that we have to consider, that we have to take care of all the fuel kilograms that we have on board. And that's what we are going to, Captain Gabriel is going to tell you how we preserve any kilo that we can preserve over our airplane. What other thing we have to keep in mind? As Dr. Crystal told us about the SMS, the Safety Management System, make us to take care of the safety. Okay, I know, I understand that as the SMS tells us, you will be managing, you will be flying, you will be traveling inside a protection zone, which is in between the bankruptcy. Yes, this is okay. You are so safe, you waste a lot of money, you consume a lot of fuel. This business is not anymore sustainable, you bankrupt. But the other part of the equation is the catastrophe. Yes, it's what happens if you take too much risk, you go far beyond the safety limits. And this is something that is happening now. This is not something created by the SMS or a theoretical thing that it's in the books, it's not happening. This is something we manage. This is something that happens now. The aviation industry is working daily to be in between these two no trespassing zones, which is nobody wants to bankrupt. Yes, we have to, but there is a list of airlines that always go to bankrupt. On the other hand, we have fuel supply problems. It's not fuel supply, but a bad fuel management policy can lead you to have safety problems. Yes, that's what we have to keep in mind. It's not only to be environmentally friendly and have a strong policies or very, very tight fuel policies. You have to talk with your SMS, your safety team, to see how much you can do. There's a lot of guidelines to understand what we are able to do and what could lead you to a problem. Yes. So please keep in mind the SMS, as Dr. Crystal explain us that the SMS is a very powerful tool in order to understand where we can go and where we can't go. So, whoops, sorry. Are we okay from now? Question? Thanks. Let me go to the... So, the SMS. And to finish, let's talk about what's inside of the plane. What is the weight of an airplane composed of? What we have on board that define the weight of an airplane. This is a very important thing that we have to consider if we work for an airline and say, okay, what's inside? Where's the weight? And we have a weight distribution. We have to think about what we have inside. The weight of the airplane is defined, is defined as the weight of the machine, the airplane, how much it weighs, its structure, engines, seats, the upholstery, everything, the payload and the fuel. All the things we have to be inside of the airplanes in order to be able to fly. Let's think in a commercial airplane, and it's not the plane that we use to have fun a weekend. No, this is a commercial airplane. That's what we need to have inside. We can imagine by definition, or by the word is telling you which one we need to have more. Yes, this is called payload. It's a very precise load because it's the load that is going to pay the bill. So if we are not any clever, you say, okay, let's increase the payload because it's where the money will come from. So increasing the payload is a wise choice, but we have a constraint. We have a constraint on the top that we can go further. We can go beyond of the maximum takeoff weight, and there's a no trespassing zone again. We cannot take off heavier than the maximum takeoff weight because it's not allowed. Yes, you may say, okay, I remember once we took off with some tons of takeoff weight beyond the maximum takeoff weight. That's illegal. Yeah, it may be. There's people doing that. It's illegal. We can do in a commercial aviation. Nobody think about taking off with more just to have more revenue, taking off with more weight than allowed. And these limits could be a maximum takeoff weight limit by the structure or by performance or by air, but you can go further. So, okay, we have to manage. If we can increase this, we have to manage what we have inside. So we have to stretch this too. Let's work on lowering the operation, the machine weight. Yes, that's something that the industry is doing. We are introducing new structures. We are introducing composite materials. We are having lighter airplanes. We change the seats. We find companies that have seats that does not recline. This is because they are lighter. We were trying to reduce. We take the paint out because the paint has a weight, and if you multiply for your thousands of flight, that's a revenue comes from, because you don't have to travel all those kilograms that are part of the machine. So reducing the weight of the machine will increase the margin of your payload. But it's not something that we can do as when we buy the plane. Okay, that's the plane that we have. Yes, we may change or adapt the interior. We can use less screens. We can change the carpet. We can use less bathrooms, and we can manage this part to reduce the weight. But we can also move the fuel. The fuel, we can take some fuel outside of the airplane. Oh, how can we do that? What if, for example, if we use new engines, if we combine a lighter machine with new engines, we have a leap on the consumption, and these engines consume 20% less, 20% less fuel than its predecessor. What we get there? Okay, so I may reach the same point with less fuel. So all that fuel kilograms will be now, from now on, they will be transformed in passengers or cargo or something that is payload. So that's the technology that's how we manage the things that we can manage on board on an airplane. We have to maximize this payload. So that's the challenge. of aviation. And now I can leave the floor to Captain Gabriel Gaeta, that is going to talk of the specific things that we do in the aviation industry, operational things that we do to save fuel on the operation. And this is something not chosen by the pilots, by the way. This is something that is a policy applied by the company after studies and after understanding the context of where we operate, how we operate, which type of airplane we have, where are we able to do that? Is it recommendable by the manufacturer? Does the authority allows you to do that? So this is the idea, this is the inspiration that we want to share with you about sustainability. Please keep sustainability in your mind and work with sustainability as one of these forces that now is in the battle. So, Captain Gabriel, please, I hand you over.
Thank you, Robert. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here as a student on behalf of UTN. And thank you for everyone to be here present and to make this day possible. So let's begin. Don't be afraid. You will be seeing a lot of charts, numbers, and strange graphics. So it's to be place a context of how the numbers could be so important in this case. Well, we are talking about today about fuel efficiency implementations that they are already on the industry, green operating procedure and flight phases of a flight, and new technologies ahead 2050. So that's we are calling today the net zero, and then the space to questions. So what do you think? What are we doing today to improve our fuel efficiency? Any ideas regarding airplane systems, infrastructure? What do you think? Okay, we can start talking about airspace design. Navigation has become a lot of changing in the last few times. I'm sorry, Zainab is telling changing engine technology. That's right. We are talking about that one too. And so navigation has become a big major changer in these fuel saving policies, saving procedures. You can see here, this is the standard and old-fashioned conventional routes that they are going point to weight from a navigate on the ground, and then become airnav procedures. They were more like a strange straight point place. I don't know, you can say, I want to point this time and do a straight line to the other point. And then it has a little bit limitation. It was the radio to fix. They were not invented yet. And now it's called RMP AR and curve lateral path. You can do the plane to do a perfect curve to an instrument procedure. So as you can see here in this example, these are radar vectors given by ATC controllers. And then you have here the old procedure, and this is the RMP procedure. It's more shortened, it's more efficient, and of course saves money and emissions, and has a lot of advantages. As you can see here, this is another one, RMP AR procedure merged into an approach, and this is the old procedures. Then we have constant descent approaches, and they are related, not doing the plane a step descent, if not a constant descent towards the runway. And then we have ATC procedures, CCO and CDOs, consigned continuous climb and descent operations, and collaborative decision making. What is collaborative decision making? Basically, they are slots. So the ATC is giving you a slot to move your plane within a few minutes gap. Probably in Europe, usually is +3, -3 minutes. And after that, you must request for another slot. What are the advantages of doing this? Is basically you are doing a shorter taxi times, and you are doing a non-stop flight without so much restrictions due to traffic. So basically, this is the old way to fly, is in the yellow line, and on the gray line, you have the constant climb and constant descent. And here you have the vertical plan view. You have here the RMP procedures. They are more like GPS, we can say, procedures, but more accurate. we have a rate of 0.10 mile. And the usually accurate rate of our airplane system is probably between 0.03 nautical miles down to 0.08. So they are highly accurate. So we are talking now about the flight procedures. As Roberto said, we can do a lot of things on dispatch, fuel quantity, dispatch weight accuracy, and flight plan system optimization. Of course, the system has winds, route, and estimated fuel burn for that day particularly. And then we can apply pre-departure procedures, taxi out, use of burn electric power, use of electrical external air conditioning, and lower the APU use at minimum. So another thing you can do is use your one-engine taxi procedures and single pack operation. We will see it shortly what is like.
Biofuels. I have the opportunity to make a commercial flight with biofuels made from plant-based fuel. A sustainable fuel. It's less sustainable than the one that they're designing. But here in Latin America, very far from the world, at the very end of the world, we have already done in our company. We have already done a flight with sustainable, yes, biofuel, which are more sustainable than traditional fuel. It's not cheap, but it's the way where we have to head. We have to go that way. So it's real. It's sustainable aviation fuel. It's real. Like Captain say, there are different techniques to improve the fuel efficiency from manufacturing point of view, from maintenance point of view. What are the ways that we can manage fuel efficiency? Captain Gabriel.
Well, we have a lot of ways to do it. You can reduce your EGT margin, washing the airplane engine. They are usually common tasks during a daily basis, especially in hot places. So that improves the fuel burn, specific fuel burn of an airplane. And of course, you can do a lot of tasks to reduce the fuel performance factor of an airplane. What is that? Is that an index that we use in the airplane computer to set to the computer how dirty is the airplane. Dirty not about dirt specifically, but dirty about probably if the airplane got stuck by in a car, in a truck during the airport, it doesn't have the same shape of given in factory. So they are doing induced drag during the flight. So maintenance has a lot of impact on this kind of techniques. And of course, a lot of maintenance tasks that they are always recommended to be the airplane more perfect to the flight.
Yeah, for example, surface rigging is aligning all the surfaces just to reduce the drag. And it's something that airlines continually monitor. How big is the drag that the airplane is having? And if you go very well beyond an expected drag factor, you say, okay, let's do something because we have to rig, we have to change some surfaces because it's dragging too much. It's outside. Okay, I can manage that. We know how big is that drag. We put more fuel on board, but we want to reduce the fuel. So let's do something in the maintenance level to reduce the drag and to have a cleaner airplane. All the things that you put on the airplane surface is affecting. So if you have to make a repairment, you have a scratch, you break something and you have to put a patch on the surface, that patch will be generating drag. You say, okay, it's just a half of a kilo by hour in terms of thrust, but multiply by all the legs that this airplane is going to fly in his life is money. So isn't better to make a flash repairment that is it's not cheap, it costs more, but it generates less drag. So that's the balance that we want. Will this become effective, or it will be just serve as a nice to talk about? Well, the future will say. It's something that isn't going. There are many actors working with this. My point of view is they can be all wrong. So there's something happening. How fast is this going to happen? How close we will be of this zero emission in 2050? Nobody knows. But it's something that is moving. You can be on board, or I don't know, just to survive until this is a rule and it gets harder to be outside. It happened the same with engines. There are countries that have limitation operating certain engines because of noise and please go back in the history and search what happened with the noise production in cities and the noise production limitation in certain airports. There was a ban of operating aircraft with certain noise level, and everybody in that time, everybody say, okay, yes, they are noisy, but now there are countries where you can operate, you cannot operate with certain type of aircraft because they are too noisy. You say, nobody think of going because you can't go. Say, is it going to be real? Yes, it's real. So did it take the appropriate time to be in place, that banning or that rule? Maybe it could have been shorter, or it took too long, but it's there. I think the same is going to happen with this.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Yes.
No, don't forget the taxes penalty places in Europe right now. If you have a 4-engines airplane, you are paying a lot of tax instead of having a 2-engines airplane flying towards Europe. And that's a hard initiative. So they are forced to improve their fuel efficiency and buying new planes to do it more efficiently.
Yep, for sure. What happened with undeveloped countries happened the same. Not all the countries can go at the same speed. Not all the countries have the same resources to address this problem. No, all the companies have the same amount of money or can invest or have the best professionals to work with this, but that's part of the equation. So we will go as far as we can what we have, but it's a common problem. Yes, it's like we cannot say here. Okay, here we are very carbon neutral in this country, and the other side of the border you can fly 727. That's burn a lot of fuel. You say, okay, but for the carbon emission, there is no boundary. So this is a global view. We all have to think, yes, there will be different speeds in development, but we need to continue moving forward. Can we monitor the progress of the fuel initiative on? Yes, we can. Older aircraft have another problem. They basically by design consume more fuel, but if you consume better fuel, you can tackle that emission that you want to cut. So yes, you can. The industry cannot get rid of all the old airplanes because it's a change. We have to. Okay, no, you can't fly all these airplanes. Okay, all your 737-800 are old, so throw it out, buy the new Max 1 or buy the Neo or new airplanes that are going to camp. No, it's not realistic. This is a change. Maybe if you as authority generate, or authority of the industry generate incentive of airplanes that produce less impact on the. You say I'm going to cut taxes on airplanes that produce less CO2. Okay, that could be interesting. I pay less taxes if I use a newer plane. Okay, maybe the equation is getting in balance. It's worth to buy the new one. How infrastructure affect aviation efficiency? Some comments about what happened in Latin America. What can you tell us about your experience? Ms. Captain Gabriel, please, would you like to?
Yes, well, how can affect just in a small amount, like about 3% in the whole net zero milestone. So what happened in Latin America? We are quite behind, I think, in a few airports improvements because our infrastructure is right now very old in a few countries, and we need to improve that by probably doing more regulations and improving that kind of new services. I don't know, if you go to Europe or US, you have a pit beneath the airplane with electric cart to improve to get the airplane electrical network. And here we are now using today the old cart with diesel engines, really noisy and doing a lot of carbon emissions. But instead, in Chile, we have now in Santiago, one of the handling airports, they have a remote electric pushback truck. It's not the old-fashioned truck, And usually the person operating this has like a small device and is talking with the machine via Bluetooth connection and telling, okay, push the airplane straight ahead, now turn to the right, and it's 100% electric. I think will be that kind of improvements. Nice to see.
Electric, an electric
Yes,
robot.
electric. Yeah.
So, what about solar farm? The airport is a very big surface, and there are many in Europe. There are many places where the solar farms are put, and the electric system of the airport is fed by an electric by a solar farm. It's solar electricity, and yes, nobody is going to use the side of the runway because it's a protected area. You can't put a building again. So what if we put a solar farm on the over the airport? So there are many things that we can do as an infrastructure, and it's not as developed as it should. But one final question: do you think lazy takeoff or changing the flex temperature of engine can improve efficiency? Yes. Flex temperature is something that, just to explain, flex temperature is just the amount of power that you need for any takeoff. In commercial aviation, we don't use all the power that the engine has to take off. We just use as much as we need. We calculate how much power do we need in every takeoff, and we just set with this variable is flex temperature. You say to the engine, okay, let's imagine that we have 15 degrees centigrade. Let's imagine that it is 55 degrees centigrade. So assume that there are 55. It just give me all the power you can give me with only save engine life. And we have to consider that all the goods that we save and live longer does not need to be produced. And producing any goods generate a carbon footprint. So it's the second derivative of this benefit. You say, okay, I have to change more wheels doing this. Okay, changing more wheels will require the system to produce more wheels, and the production of a wheel has an impact on the CO2 footprint. So if we save any goods, we are taking care of the CO2 or the carbon footprint.
Thank you very much to both captains. Thank you very much to Mr. Sindonga and Omar Jafik and all the students here. We are going to read the vote. First question: the contents of this presentation have been useful for my training. 100% says yes. Which of the following topics do you consider useful for the next session of the NTFA? Human resources, 40%. Management, 37%, aerodynamics, 37%, technology applied to the industry, 55%, and training for operations crew, 27%, airport operations, 67%, training related to the instruction of pilots and crew, 40%, education and teaching methods applied to aviation, 40%, and business model, 27%. We will have into account these questionnaire results in the next NTFA. I hope you like both presentations. Thank you very much to all. Thank you to our director, Fabio Chaher. Do you want to say anything?
I appreciate your time. Thank you, Sindonga. Thank you, Roberto and Gabriel. And you, Agustina, especially to Leonardo, is give us a different view, because we can hear and we can talk, and some people know this is the including aviation for the future. Thank you very much. To my family, I'm here in Dubai and my family is there in Argentina, and thank you to all to improve the aviation.
Excellent. So see you in the next lecture.
Thank you, everyone.
See you in the next presentation.